Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. It's Saturday, so it's an update video day. I'm going to give more information about the Camshaft Challenge, tell you who has shown interest and all that in just a minute. But I do have one favor to ask of first. A customer named Greg Miller sent these Dart Pro ones in for me to port. I have lost your information. I have spent most of the day yesterday searching for it. If you are Greg Miller or know Greg Miller, your heads are pretty much just need to be assembled. Can you contact me? Second one. This showed up yesterday. This is a dart intake. You didn't put a note in the box, and I don't know who you are or what I'm supposed to do with this. So if you guys can kind of help me out and just do that, that'd be great. But anyway, that's for that. Now let's talk about the Camshaft Challenge first. And I've got a ton of updates, by the way, besides just the camshaft stuff. Because this week I also got in the dyno again and tested the 540 big block Chevy and the new small block Chevy dyno mule. That's a good one. I mean, both are good, but yeah. Anyway, to the Camshaft Challenge. So I did the video on Thursday about the Camshaft Challenge, but I want to go over some more of the rule clarifications and also tell some other things as well to go with it. And every Saturday I will give you updates about the Camshaft Challenge as far as who's entered and questions that might be asked and be as helpful as possible. So one of the things is they said I left off the engine specs, which going back in the video I kind of assumed that you might have watched the other ones and that's where you got the specs from. So in fairness, I'm going to go ahead and give them to you in this one. The engine is an LS, it's a 408, and it's a 4030 bore, 4-inch stroke. The compression ratio, which I think I've already said, is 11.45. You can look back in that last video and see that one as well. All the head data as far as flow numbers and everything else that goes with that head is in that Thursday video. But people had asked other questions too. They had asked which these are rightful questions. What fuel will I be running? It's going to be a 91 octane with a splash of 110. And what I mean by that is it's a 15-gallon drum, and Gary gets 91 pure gas from the station there in Enid, Oklahoma. But he adds about 1 gallon of 110 Sunoco. So whatever that ends up being, that's what it is. So that's the fuel that's ran. Rocker ratio is 1.7. And it's just... it's got the trunnion upgrade. It's pretty common. The lifters, now that one also got asked, and I misspoke before. Viewer had sent these in. That's the reason why I didn't entirely know what they were. These are Cadillac lifters from GM. I can give you the part number or whatnot, but also I should probably point out if there's any question about the engine you want answered, you can email me and ask. Do not use that as an excuse not to enter. I'm open and I will tell you everything, and I'll reveal those. So, but anyway, they're Cadillac lifters. They seem like they're really nice. Several people, well, at least one person asked about why the 660 lift rule. So that one's actually pretty easy to answer. If you go to Brian Tooley and you buy one of their spring kits, most of them are rated to 660 lift. The most common spring kit probably sold is their kits. So most people are within that range. So although I could make it 700 lift or whatever I wanted as far as the arbitration numbers, no, 660 because it's more common to everybody, and also the spring. And quite frankly, when I was talking in the video, I thought I had the Brian Tooley spring kit on that head, which I don't. It's a Cam Motion ones. You can go back and watch the previous video to see the spring specs. I'd also got asked about the weight of the intake valve and exhaust valve. That was in the previous video as well. I got asked about the weight of the push rod. That's 59 grams. I got asked about the weight of the spring, the retainer and lock, and that's 110 grams. I don't know the weight of the lifter. I'm not going to pull that out and weigh it. Another thing got asked about the push rod itself. When Gary Dunsworth built the engine, by the way, so I do all the work as far as, well, both of us work together when we're on the dyno changing parts, but he had mocked up with all the sets of heads because there's 5 heads that have been tested by the time this happens. So he'd mocked all of them up to get the right push rod length. I don't know what he set the preload up on the push rod at. I want to say 60, but that truly, and I do mean truly, is a guess. But the push rod length for those Pro Max heads that we ran is 8.150 long. And it's 5/16 push rod, and it's an 083 wall. So now several people like, well, won't that change? Well, I shouldn't say several, really just one person had said, won't that change if you switch different camshafts? You're supposed to have a different push rod. If the base circle of the camshaft's relatively the same, it really won't make a difference. So, for instance, all the mock-ups was done on a Texas Speed Stage 2 camshaft. So that's the camshaft that was used. I've already tested at least 3 camshafts in this. The push rod length really doesn't need to be changed. It will affect the preload some, but not enough to make a difference. The only time it might is if you had a camshaft that had been reground a lot, and then it might make a difference. Now, there's a catch to that. I think if we were spinning this motor, because the test range goes from 4,000 to 7,000. I think if we were going beyond that, that preload would probably become more of an issue. I just don't know that you're going to have a problem with that, and that's the reason for the push rod. The other thing is, well, why don't you let us supply the push rod? Because if I was actually entering the competition and I was wanting to win and cheat it up, what I would do is I'd get a longer push rod, I'd bottom out the plunger and make it almost run as a solid. That's why I'm not. So if that's the reason why, like, if you think you need to send in a push rod for that, yeah, that could be a problem, because then someone could get an advantage because they use the longer push rod or shorter push rod, either way, to cheat the system. So that's the reason for that push rod length. You should be fine. If that's an excuse you want to use to not enter, fine. But I think it's ridiculous. Personally, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. There's plenty of travel within that we have as a preload where it really should not make a difference. But if you really think that's an issue, email me. Maybe we'll talk through that. But anyway, as far as other information about the engine, I don't, and this is a valid question too. It's the Super Victor is being used, because I had 2 other questions. The Super Victor manifold is being used because I've already tried the Victor Junior and the Super Victor did better. So I'm going to use that one. I don't have the measurements on it. I still have to measure, because whenever I put out a book, which will have all the information from the LS testing in there, when I put out a book for that, I have all the measurements from the manifold. I just didn't do it yet. If I can get a chance to run up to Dunsworth, it's 2 hours from my shop, and I will get those measurements and I will share them in another video like this. Unfortunately, I just don't have them at this time. The reason for the 1000 CFM 4150 carburetor is because it performed better than the smaller carburetors. That's the reason why I'm doing it. That's the reason why we run it. Let me see if there's something else. I think that pretty much wraps it up as far as like the rules, but you'll probably want to know, has anybody shown any interest? And the answer is yes. They're right off, the very first person that actually called me was David Visor. Strange but true. He said, you didn't even have to ask me, I was already getting one made. So now, I say this, but you have to understand this. There are 0 entries right now that are in there. 0. Because until a camshaft shows up, nobody's entered. No good camshafts are here yet. So as of today, 8/24, nobody has sent in a camshaft. Has there been interest? Absolutely. David Visor was the first. The second one was Howard's Cams. They actually emailed me, and I'm going to quote what they said. Yes, we have balls. So I think they're in, which is awesome. And the third one, which was another very surprising, was Chris Straub from Straub Technologies. He actually asked about the weight of the push rod and other things as well. And he says, I'm game. I am pleasantly surprised. So those ones. Now, there have been other people, individuals, which brings up another point. You do not have to be a cam company to enter a cam. You can just be a normal guy. If you think you've got the best cam, you think it's going to win this pot, because remember, you're winning at least $100. But if you put in $100, 80% of whatever gets put in goes to the winner. The other 20 goes for me. I'm going to do a minimum of 10 camshafts, and I mean that because I can only afford 2 days worth of dyno sessions. That's about $1,600. If someone wants to pay for the more dyno time, I will test way more camshafts. And so I would love to have someone to pay for the entire dyno time, but I will pay for the 2 days. After that, which would be about, I think we can get done the 10 in that time. After that, unless someone pays, you're out. So if you send in a camshaft, but you haven't put your 100 in, you're probably not going to make it. If 10 people enter with the $100, the first 10 that entered with the $100 are in. Now, if others can pay for the dyno session, like I said, we'll go further. I'll do as many as I can, but I can only afford 2 dyno sessions. I think that's fair. Now, other people have also asked, because I just popped in my head, about degreeing the camshaft. The reason why I'm not degreeing in every camshaft is because it will take me longer to degree the camshaft in than it will to put the camshaft in. So in other words, taking the engine all apart, changing the camshaft, putting another one in, will take less time than degreasing a camshaft. And you're like, well, that's not fair. It's going to make so-and-so's cam look bad. That's not how it should be done. Again, I'm going to go back to the statement I've made before. 90% of actual LS guys are putting them in their car and are not degreasing them. Sorry, it didn't happen. They just aren't. They're doing dot to dot, which is exactly what I'm doing, and it's going in. If you don't like that, you can use it as an excuse not to enter, or just say, I'm a bitch. Anyway, I know I was kind of mean there, but whatever. Back to that, those are the only people so far that have, I mean, I should say several people have asked for information and said they're going to send in, but they're individuals, so I don't know. But again, no one's actually sent one in yet. But it's only been 2 days. Even if they shipped it, it probably wouldn't have arrived yet. Watch next Saturday, and I'll probably give you more updates on who actually has sent in camshafts and whatnot. So just watch every Saturday, you get to see. Now, here's how the contest will actually go for those who have forgotten some of the rules too. There are 4 data points, and this is how you win. There should be 10 camshafts, and I hope they get entered. Whoever has the highest horsepower, that's a rank. So you're ranked from highest horsepower to lowest horsepower, highest torque to lowest torque, highest average horsepower between 4,000 and 7,000 RPM, highest average torque between 4,000 and 7,000 RPM. Whoever ranks the best wins. Pretty simple. But here's how I'm going to run it. So I want you to understand this too, just so you guys can get a better idea how I'm trying to be as fair as possible. Before the camshaft challenge starts, I'm going to put in the Texas Speed Stage 2 camshaft. It is not part of the competition. The reason why that camshaft's going in is because I have used this engine to compare other cylinder heads. When those Pro Maxes go on, I need to have tested it with that camshaft because I've tested that camshaft with 5 other heads to make sure I can compare those heads. It will also act as a baseline. It will not be in the competition. I'm repeating that because people don't hear all the video. After that, those camshafts that are sent in, I'm going to give you a number, 1 through 10. I'm going to find some random person to draw on a hat and draw a number. Whoever draws out that whatever number they draw out, that's actually the first camshaft that's getting ran. Then the next one that draws out of the head is the next camshaft that gets ran. In other words, it's totally random on when yours going to get ran. This way you can't say, well, that so-and-so was better because they ran at the beginning of the day or whatever, and they got preferential treatment that way. It's random. After all the camshafts ran, I'm taking out that last camshaft and putting the Texas Speed back in to kind of confirm that the numbers on the engine is still correct and that should be about in the ballpark where it was when the test started. That's how it will work. Second point, I forgot about this about the rules. Every camshaft company has to send in a cam card. Those will be revealed to you, the viewer, but I'm not going to review the camshaft card numbers until the competition is locked in. And the reason for that is because I don't want someone Price is Righting someone else. Younger crowd may not know what I'm talking about. And Price and Right, they would guess a price of an object. And the first person might go, well, this head's worth $1,000 retail price. So they'd say 1,000. The next dick that would go 1,001. The next dick that would go $999, which means the first guy who actually spent the most amount of time thinking of his answer has to be exactly right to win. The others just can guess around that. So to prevent that from happening with the cams, no one will know what the other's cams numbers are. And no, I'm not telling anybody until the competition actually is locked in. Then I will reveal the cam cards because I don't want someone giving a camshaft, let's say it's 230, and you go, I'm fine, 230.5, just to kind of lock them as far as duration or whatever, just to be just a little bit different. You have to actually do your own independent thinking on this. Oh, the headers on the engine are 1 3/4. I've got asked several times about why you don't put bigger headers on it. One, I've already said I was going to use 1 3/4 because that's what we've been using. And 2, I don't have another set. But if I was to say now I'm going to go to something bigger, I don't have the money to buy the headers. All right, I'm spending $1,600 on a dyno session just to help some cam company sell more cams, or for some internet expert to try to prove themselves, which I highly recommend. Anyway, I don't have money to buy another headers, and I've already said I'm going to use 1 3/4, and I'm be quite frank, those are probably more common than the other ones. Just being honest. And if you think it affects power, I'm going to tell you this. On a 406 small block Chevy that I used for Engine Masters, which was ran in about the same range, I tested several different headers. Now, I know you're like, it's not an LS, it's a small block Chevy. It's not that different. I know you would like it to be, it's not. I tested 1 3/4, a 1 3/4 step to 1 7/8, and a 1 7/8. The 1 7/8 was up 2 horsepower and down 5 foot-pounds of torque. The 1 3/4 step to 1 7/8 with the merge collector only was better than the 1 3/4 in torque and just slightly better than the 1 7/8 in horsepower by 2. So, does it mean it'll be the same for the LS exactly? No, but it's what I have. People did ask about this, and it's a valid question. The header collector is 3.5 inches, by the way. It goes to a probably 5 foot of 3.5 inch pipe that goes into the giant dyno mufflers that vents outside. You probably should know that. Let's see, timing. What's going to happen when the Texas Speed camshaft's in there? I'm going to try to get the best timing. It's probably going to come in between 29 and 30 degrees. It's going to be straight. I'm not going to put a timing curve in it because I will say that can affect people's power numbers as well. But it's going to be straight 29 or whatever the best is all the way across. So everybody has that same timing curve. I'm not timing per each camshaft. If you also would like to use that as excuse why you can't enter, I guess you can use that, I guess, but I'm not going to spend all day to do a timing curve for one person's camshaft. You get the same as everybody else. I'm going to try to set up as many cameras as I can. One on the dyno screen so people don't think I'm screwing them because, you know, internet. The other one as to film us as we're changing them so you can kind of see. Maybe I'll bring in someone else to kind of help, just to help with things go a little bit quicker. But that I can't use live feed. I don't know why YouTube won't let me. There's something I haven't done, click the button or something. But because I would love to, but I don't know how. For whatever reason, I can't. So regardless, I'll record them. I'll put them on SD cards, and then I'll make one gigantic film and just shove it on YouTube so you can, if you would like to see, think I cheated somehow or we alter the dyno numbers or something, because people. Anyway, do not use. I do not have enough information to spec you a camshaft. You didn't provide enough information. My email is weingartnerracing@gmail.com. You can ask me any question. I will do my best to answer that question. Don't ask stupid questions. Don't ask what year the engine was born, what sign it is. I think I've given you, and I know this, I've now given you more information than most LS guys would call up a camshaft company and be able to give you, period. The flow numbers and stuff are in the previous video and you could use those. Now, that wraps up this. Let's get to the cool stuff that happened this week, because it was neat. So yeah, the 421, that's the 421 by the way, that's the new small block Chevy dyno mule. It's good. Yeah, it's better than the LS. The LS is gonna have to really step up to beat that thing. It's phenomenal. In case you're wondering, here's how it came to be. So a customer, I had ported a set of heads for him, I ported an intake manifold on him, and sold him the camshaft. Anyway, it's been probably a year ago or so, and he's been working on the engine. And this engine really does have the nice of the nice stuff, which I'll describe in later videos. But he had rented on them. He said, I've got other engines and stuff. I know your dyno mule's down. You want to just use this for testing? You can use it as long as you want. Just whenever you're done, refresh it and send it back to me. I thought, hell, that's a hell of a deal. But he went ahead and put it on his dyno there where he is just to check it out before he sent it to me. And he said there was some kind of issue. Something was wrong, or smoking or something. So he had sent it to Dunsford Machine, Gary, and said he worked with Gary because I turned him over to him, just let him do whatever. Yes, I can build engines, I just don't anymore. The heads take up too much time. But anyway, Gary's like, looked through as much stuff as he could. And he's like, I really would hate to tear this all the way down and find nothing wrong because I'm looking at everything. I don't see any metal in the oil. It turns over nice and smooth. There's no weird sounds. I don't know what I kind of want to know what it is before I tear this down, or at least get some kind of idea. And so this was Wednesday. So on Wednesday, I just got done dynoing the 540 big block Chevy with the 385 AFR heads. That's a great test. That's going to be later. Speaking of which, if you want, if you would like to not wait for the video for that to come out with the 540 and this 421, you really want to see what the numbers were, I'm putting a link in the description right in this video where you can buy the dyno results, and I will text them to you. It's going to cost $20, and I will text you the 540 results and the 421 so you can know. Because chances are those won't be out for months as far as videos goes because there's too much stuff in front of it. But anyway, so I was testing the 540, got done doing that. Tested, by the way, rocker arm ratios on that too. So on the 540, the AFR heads went on. That was one thing that was tested. I know I jump around. I've got bad ADD. But the next thing that was tested was the intake rocker ratio. So we went from I think I just said this, went from 1.7 to 1.8 ratio, tested that. Then David Visor had actually sent in a 1250 carburetor used for this dual plane testing, but I was like, why don't we just try it? So I put that on. So we've been using the 1050, put the 1250 on and tested that. So that's all it was tested on the 540. Got done doing that, and Gary was talking about this 421. He goes, do you want to help me just put this on there real quick? And we can put it on the dyno here, and what we could do is we could use the dyno starter and just turn it over. Just turn it over to see if we can hear some kind of clattering or something that might go wrong. Because he's like, I just kind of want to see. I don't think we could hurt it worse than what's wrong. I said, sure. So we hooked it up. We turned over the dyno, and we didn't hear anything. Just the starter. We're like, I don't hear anything. I really don't. I mean, I hear the dyno making noise, obviously, but not really. So then I was like, well, let's see if it builds oil pressure. So we kept turning over until it built oil pressure, and it did. So we're like, shit. Let's go ahead and start it up. Surely it will make some kind of noise with the startup. I don't think you could hurt it. It's already hurt, if it's hurt. So we start it up. We don't hear anything. I mean, nothing. It sounds nice and smooth. We're letting it idle and stuff. It's got a good oil pressure and stuff. So we turn it off. We kind of look over things. Still don't see anything wrong. The oil in the valve cover doesn't have any metal in it. So it's like, let's just warm it up. Let's see what happens. Maybe it's going to do something when it warms up. So we warm it up, and he monitors oil temperature and water temperature. And there's a good indication whenever things go wrong, the oil temperature will start climbing really fast. It's doing the normal thing. It's actually climbing slower than the water, which is kind of normal because it takes longer to heat up oil. So it's like, shoot. So then we got it up to temperature, and there's no sounds. Everything seems smooth. There's nothing in the oil. Can't really figure out what's going on. There's no smoke coming out of anything. It seems about normal. So he goes, let's just do a small pull. So we did like a pull from 3,600 to 6,000. And he only did it part throttle, and it made 660 horse. Just to remember, the best that the 406 did was 650. That's 6,000. I won't give you away any of the rest, but it made way, 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 way more than that. And by the way, that was part throttle. So we're like, whoo, I really don't. That's weird. It's looking good. So then checking stuff again, doesn't see anything wrong. So we keep spinning it up. And so in the end, we end up making 6 pulls. There's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, it is the highest horsepower 23-degree motor that's been on that dyno. It's the best one I don't know about others, but it's the best one I've ever had on there for sure. It's the best 23-degree, and he's done circle track stuff, high-end, deals. It's really, really good. It's within 30 horsepower of an 18-degree late model motor. So, and this is a pump gas deal. Really phenomenal. Really, really phenomenal. And by the way, it does scare the living shit out of you when it goes full throttle because it's got that tunnel ram and those 2 carburetors. It makes like a whoa sound whenever the blades open, and I'll do a little clip I'll put in here for you. But yeah, so that got done. It was pretty exciting as far as that goes. Really happy. So Wednesday was a fantastic day all over. And then of course I put up the video on Thursday and had to hear how much of an idiot I was. But anyway, that wasn't the only thing. Let me show you the other stuff that's also getting done. These are the AFR enforcer heads for a small block Chevy that was used on the 406 dyno mule. This week, I finished porting just the exhaust ports. And trust me, one of the hardest things I've done is not touching the intake port at all. I didn't redo the valve job or nothing. So I reflowed it too, by the way. Now you might say, why are you doing this? One of the tests I wanted to do from the very first, whenever the 406 dyno mule was done, was I wanted to see what would happen if you just port the exhaust port. Well, we're gonna find out. So this will be the final life of that 406 small block Chevy. And I'm selling it, I'm gonna tell you the price and everything. This head was used at the very beginning part, and at the time it only made, the best it did make 570. Now it's got a little head gasket problem we had before. I'm gonna smooth up the deck on the head, on the block. It's not really that bad. But instead of using MLS gasket, because that won't seal, I'm putting a composite gasket on. I'm 99% certain that's gonna seal. And I'm putting these heads back on. We're gonna make our final rip with it. We're gonna put this, I'm not sure which intake manifold, because remember I tested just about every one of them possible, but I'm gonna put the intake manifold on, and then I'm selling the engine. So I think I'm gonna sell it for $6,000,
if someone said I should raffle it, I would love to raffle and make like 10 grand off of an engine that really is only worth 6. But I don't have enough viewers and selling up stuff to make it. If I did a raffle, I'd end up selling the engine for maybe $300. So anyway, I want at least 6,000 to get out of it. Otherwise I'll just keep it. But you could watch the video, see what all it's done. But anyway, let me show you how it turned out, the flow numbers. So these are just the exhaust. So this is what it was stock. So this is cylinder 6. It says 7, but this is 6 now ported. So you could tell it gained a lot. Not so much at 1 and 2, but look at, you go to 4, it went from 160 to 173. Peak went from 210 to 235. I mean, well, we run about a 700 lift, so 202 to 224, so you know, about 22 CFM gain. But here's the crazy part. This is that cylinder. So here's your intake flow and your exhaust flow. If you do the intake to exhaust ratio, it's much better now. Not that I hate that thing anyway, but I'm curious to see what this does. So the next time I actually go on the dyno, it's probably gonna be this. I'm gonna put the engine back together, make a dyno pull, make sure that everything's right on the engine, because I'm not gonna sell it if it's still having a problem with that one cylinder, which I don't think it will. I think once the head gasket's on there, it's gonna seal it up because it worked perfectly. It's just the MLS thing. Your surfaces has to be perfect, and right where that kind of crack is on that, right where it hits the sleeve, before the sleeve, it's right where the MLS ring is. On a composite, it's a whole flat there. I don't think I have any issue, but I will absolutely check it before it gets out. Everybody knows the issue with the engine. If you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. But anyway, test it one more time, and that's the end of the 406. It'll be sold. I'm hoping to use those funds to build a brand new small block Chevy mule that I think will be just strictly for power adder. So it'll probably be a 406, and we'll just test away on the superchargers, different stuff there, instead of that one will only be supercharged stuff, no NA anymore. But yeah, that's it. The other thing, big thing, is this week I'm gonna go to Ohio, and I'm gonna go pick up a 408 Windsor, so a Ford, to start using that for dyno testing, and that will be amazing. My plan is also stop by Old Man's Garage and talk to him. I've kind of texted back and forth. That'll be really cool. Look forward to seeing him and talking to him. I've met him at PRI before, and anyway, I enjoy that. And maybe I'll just get to me, it's like a little vacation. I need some time away from the shop. This week has not been a good week. If you have a small business, you would understand. But yeah, that's what's been going on. Guys, thanks for watching. Please enter that competition. Buy some of my books or buy the tech stuff. It helps with the dyno stuff for sure. And anyway, yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, you want to know about the Camshaft challenge, just email me and I'll answer those questions. You guys, remember, I'm no Superman. I don't port cast iron heads. You guys take care.